Ladies and gentlemen, there is a certain dignity in love, a sacredness in trust. And when that trust is shattered, there are betrayals so deep, so unforgivable, that to excuse them is to betray oneself. The first is the betrayal of words, lies, manipulation, deception. Words are the currency of trust, and when they are twisted, the entire foundation of a relationship crumbles. A person who plays with truth will play with your heart, and not in the way love should. Trust is not just the foundation of a relationship, it is the very essence that holds it together. Without trust, love becomes an illusion, a mere transaction where words and emotions lose their meaning. It is the silent agreement between two people that allows vulnerability to exist without fear. But when trust is broken, when someone looks you in the eye and lies, when they manipulate the truth for their own gain, it is a betrayal that cuts deeper than any physical wound. This kind of betrayal is not an accident. It is intentional, calculated, and often repeated. A lie is never just a lie. It is a deliberate distortion of reality, a way of shaping the truth to serve one's own interests. When someone lies to you, they are not just withholding information. They are controlling the way you perceive the world. They are making decisions on your behalf without your knowledge, deciding what you deserve to know and what should be hidden from you. This is not love, it is control. A person who truly respects and values you will never feel the need to deceive you. Manipulation is an even more insidious form of betrayal. It often comes disguised as concern, as care, as love. The manipulator weaves their words carefully, making you question your own reality, your own instincts. They twist the narrative so that you feel guilty for things you never did, ashamed for emotions that are entirely valid. They create a version of events where they are always the victim and you the unreasonable one. This kind of betrayal is particularly dangerous because it does not just break trust, it breaks the spirit. And then there is deception, the act of living a double life, of pretending to be one thing while secretly being another. This is the ultimate violation of trust, for it robs you of the ability to make informed choices about your own life. A person who deceives you does not respect you. They do not see you as an equal, but as someone to be kept in the dark, someone whose emotions and well-being are secondary to their own desires. To forgive such a betrayal is to invite it to happen again. Some say that everyone deserves a second chance, that people make mistakes. But there is a difference between a mistake and a pattern. A mistake is accidental. A betrayal is intentional. A mistake is followed by remorse. A betrayal is followed by excuses. The person who lies to you today will lie to you again tomorrow. The one who manipulates you once will do it as many times as they are allowed. The hard truth is that trust, once broken, is rarely ever fully repaired. You may patch the cracks, but the fractures remain. And so, when someone betrays your trust in such a way, the choice is not whether to forgive them. It is whether you will betray yourself by staying. Love is not just about being together. It is about being seen, heard, and understood. Emotional neglect is one of the most painful betrayals in a relationship because it is not always loud, not always obvious. It does not come in the form of harsh words or dramatic betrayals. Instead, it is a slow erosion, an absence where presence should be. It is when the person who once listened to your every word now barely acknowledges your voice, when the one who once noticed your every emotion now seems indifferent to your pain. At first it may not seem like neglect. You tell yourself they are busy, tired, preoccupied. You excuse the silence, the disinterest, the distance. But over time you begin to feel invisible. You speak and no one really listens. You hurt and no one really cares. You celebrate and no one shares in your joy. And that is when you realize being alone is not the loneliest feeling. Being with someone who makes you feel alone is. Emotional neglect is not just forgetting an anniversary or failing to notice a new haircut. It is the repeated dismissal of your feelings, the pattern of indifference toward your needs. It is when you express sadness and they tell you you're overreacting. When you share a fear and they roll their eyes. When you reach out for comfort and they turn away. Over time, this kind of treatment makes you question your own worth. You begin to wonder if your emotions are too much, if your needs are unreasonable. But they are not. Love is not just about presence, it is about attention, about care, about making the other person feel valued. What makes emotional neglect so devastating is that it happens in relationships where love is supposed to exist. It happens in marriages, in long-term partnerships, in families. It is the silent killer of relationships because, unlike loud arguments or betrayal, it does not happen in a single moment. It happens slowly, day by day, until one day you realize you no longer feel connected at all. A person who truly loves you will never make you feel like you are a burden. They will never make you feel like your emotions are an inconvenience. Love is about making space for each other, about lifting each other up, about making sure that even in the darkest moments, neither of you feels alone. If someone repeatedly neglects your emotions, ignores your needs, and makes you feel invisible, that is not love. It is abandonment in disguise. And abandonment, whether physical or emotional, is a betrayal that should not be forgiven. No one deserves to beg for attention, for kindness, for acknowledgement. If someone truly cares, they will show it. If they don't, you are wasting your time waiting for a love that no longer exists. Never settle for a relationship where you have to convince someone to care. Love should never feel like loneliness. Respect is the foundation upon which love stands. Without it, a relationship is nothing more than an illusion of connection, a fragile structure destined to collapse. When someone disrespects you, whether through words, actions, or even silence, it is not just an offense. It is a betrayal of the very essence of what a relationship should be. Love and humiliation cannot coexist, and the moment someone makes you feel small, you must recognize that they are not loving you, they are diminishing. Disrespect comes in many forms. It can be obvious, harsh words spoken in anger, insults designed to wound, or public humiliation meant to strip you of your dignity. But it can also be subtle, a dismissive tone, a sarcastic remark, or a habit of interrupting you as if your words do not matter. The worst part, it often starts small, a slight jab here, an eye roll there. At first, you brush it off. They didn't mean it, you tell yourself. It's just their sense of humor. But over time, these small acts of disrespect accumulate, and before you know it, you start questioning your own worth. Humiliation is one of the most damaging betrayals because it is not just about what is said or done. It is about how it makes you feel. When someone mocks your dreams, belittles your opinions, or laughs at your vulnerabilities, they are not simply joking. They are sending you a message. Your thoughts don't matter. Your feelings are insignificant. You are not enough. And if you tolerate it, even once, you give them permission to continue. Many people endure disrespect in relationships because they believe that love requires patience, that forgiveness is a virtue. But patience should never come at the cost of self-respect, and forgiveness should never be an excuse for repeated cruelty. A person who truly loves you will never find joy in making you feel small. They will never put you down to lift themselves up. Love is meant to empower, not diminish. What makes this betrayal even more painful is that it often comes from the very person who is supposed to cherish and protect you. The partner who once admired you now speaks to you with contempt. The one who once held your hand now walks ahead without looking back. And the saddest part? You start to believe that maybe you deserve it, but you don't. Respect is not a luxury. It is a necessity. The moment you allow someone to strip you of your dignity, you begin to lose yourself. And a relationship that costs you your self-respect is far too expensive to keep. Never excuse disrespect. Never tolerate humiliation. Because once someone learns they can belittle you and still have access to your heart, they will never stop. Love should make you feel valued, seen, and cherished. If it does not, then it is not love. It is a cage. And you deserve to be free. Commitment is the unspoken contract of every meaningful relationship. It is not just a promise of loyalty, it is a declaration that through every challenge, every temptation, and every change, you will stand by each other with honesty and integrity. When this commitment is broken, through infidelity, dishonesty, or abandonment, it is not just a mistake. It is a betrayal so deep that it fractures the very core of what a relationship is meant to be. Infidelity is one of the most painful forms of betrayal because it is a conscious decision to dishonor the relationship. It is not a moment of weakness. It is a choice. A choice to deceive, to disregard the trust that was built, and to put one's own desires above the commitment made. The person who cheats may say, "It just happens." But nothing just happens. There were choices leading up to that moment, choices to cross boundaries, to entertain temptation, and ultimately, to betray. And once someone has broken that trust, can they ever truly be trusted again? But betrayal is not limited to physical infidelity. Dishonesty in any form is a violation of commitment. When a partner lies, whether about finances, emotions, or their intentions, they are withholding the truth that allows you to make informed decisions about your life. A relationship built on deception is no relationship at all. It is merely a performance, a carefully crafted illusion, where one person holds all the power while the other is kept in the dark. Love cannot thrive where there is secrecy. Then there is abandonment, not always in the physical sense, but emotionally and mentally. When a person stops showing up for the relationship, when they no longer invest time, energy, or care, they have already left. Sometimes betrayal is not about what someone does, but about what they no longer do. They no longer listen, they no longer support, they no longer fight for the relationship. They simply let it die, watching from a distance as you struggle to keep it alive, alone. The hardest part about this kind of betrayal is that many people choose to forgive it, thinking that love can overcome anything. But love is not enough when respect is gone. Love cannot thrive in an environment where one person has already given up. You cannot hold together something that someone else is actively breaking apart. There will always be those who say, people make mistakes. But betrayal is not a mistake. It is a decision. A mistake is an accident, but infidelity, dishonesty, and emotional neglect are intentional actions. And once the line of commitment is crossed, it is rarely ever fully restored. You deserve a love that is unwavering, a commitment that does not waver in the face of temptation, and a partner who values trust as much as you do. If someone has betrayed the very foundation of your relationship, do not lower your standards to keep them. Walk away. Because loyalty is not something that should ever be begged for. Kindness is a beautiful thing, but in the wrong hands it becomes a weakness to be exploited. In relationships, love should be a balance of giving and receiving, of mutual care and appreciation. But when one person gives endlessly, while the other only takes, it is not love. It is manipulation. Exploitation of kindness is a betrayal that often goes unnoticed until the damage is done. It is not loud like infidelity or cruel like humiliation. Instead, it is subtle, creeping in slowly until you find yourself drained, unappreciated, and wondering how you got there. At first it feels natural to give. You love them, so you want to support them, to be there for them, to help in any way you can. You excuse their shortcomings, you sacrifice your needs for theirs, and you convince yourself that love requires selflessness. But what happens when that selflessness is never reciprocated? When your kindness is met not with gratitude, but with expectation? When your willingness to help becomes something they feel entitled to? A person who truly loves you will never take your kindness for granted. They will never treat your generosity as something they are owed. But a person who seeks only to benefit from you will drain you without hesitation. They will take your love, your time, your energy, and when you have nothing left to give, they will leave, searching for someone else to provide what they no longer find useful in you. This kind of betrayal is difficult to recognize because it does not always come with clear signs. It does not always look like someone using you for money or favors. Sometimes it looks like emotional dependence, where they rely on you to fix all their problems, but never offer the same in return. Sometimes it looks like excuses, where they justify their lack of effort by playing the victim, making you feel guilty for wanting more. And sometimes it looks like unbalanced effort, where you are always the one who compromises, who forgives, who fights for the relationship, while they simply benefit from your effort. What makes this betrayal so painful is that it is often suffered by those with the biggest hearts, the ones who believe that love means giving without limits. But love is not about losing yourself for someone else. A love that only takes is not love. It is consumption. And the moment you feel like you are being drained instead of cherished, you must recognize that you are not in a relationship, you are in a transaction. You do not owe anyone unlimited patience, endless second chances, or the sacrifice of your well-being. If someone does not appreciate what you give, if they see your kindness as something to exploit rather than something to cherish, then you must walk away. Love should not leave you empty. Real love is about balance, about mutual respect and effort. If you are the only one giving, then you are not being loved, you are being used. The most dangerous betrayal is not the one committed by others. It is the one you commit against yourself. Betrayal of self-respect happens the moment you tolerate treatment you do not deserve, the moment you stay in a relationship that forces you to shrink, to compromise your values, to silence your needs. It is the quietest but most devastating kind of betrayal, because it does not happen all at once. It happens in small moments, in seemingly insignificant choices, until one day, you no longer recognize the person you have become. It often starts with something minor, a comment that stings, but you brush it off. A boundary crossed, but you let it slide because you don't want to seem difficult. A promise broken, but you tell yourself they didn't mean to. You convince yourself that love requires sacrifice, that patience is a virtue, that understanding is more important than confrontation. And slowly, piece by piece, you give away parts of yourself. Your voice, your confidence, your happiness. Until there is nothing left but a version of you that exists only to keep someone else comfortable. Self-respect is knowing when to say enough. It is recognizing when a relationship is no longer nourishing your soul, but depleting it. It is understanding that love should never come at the cost of your dignity. But betrayal of self-respect happens when you make excuses for the inexcusable, when you tolerate behavior that diminishes you, when you beg for the bare minimum instead of demanding what you truly deserve. The harsh reality is this: the moment you lower your standards for someone, they will never rise to meet them again. The moment you allow disrespect, it will continue. The moment you compromise your worth, you teach others that they do not have to value you either. And the worst part? You start believing it. You start thinking that maybe this is all you deserve, that maybe love is supposed to be painful, that maybe if you just try a little harder, they will finally change. But they won't. Because people do not change when they have no reason to. If someone knows that you will stay no matter how they treat you, why would they treat you any better? If they know you will forgive them no matter how many times they hurt you, why would they stop? Respect is not something you should have to beg for, and the first person who must respect you is you. Walking away is not weakness, it is strength. It is reclaiming the parts of yourself that you lost. It is choosing to believe that you deserve more, even when the person you love refuses to give it to you. Betrayal of self-respect is the most painful of all because it is entirely within your control. No one can take your worth away from you, unless you let them. And the day you decide to put yourself first is the day you finally break free. Love should be a place of safety, a refuge from the harshness of the world, but when a relationship is filled with constant criticism and negativity, it ceases to be a place of warmth and instead becomes a battlefield. The betrayal of emotional support is one of the most destructive forms of betrayal because it slowly erodes your confidence, your happiness, and even your sense of self. Love is meant to uplift, not tear down. And when someone constantly criticizes, belittles, or dismisses you, they are not loving you, they are breaking you. It begins subtly. A comment about how you should dress differently. A remark about how you could be smarter, thinner, more successful, more like someone else. At first you think they mean well. You convince yourself that they just want what's best for you. But over time, these small criticisms add up, and you begin to internalize them. You start questioning yourself. Maybe you aren't good enough. Maybe you do need to change. Maybe they are right. And that is how it starts, by making you doubt the very person you should trust the most, yourself. Negativity in a relationship does not always come in the form of direct insults. Sometimes it is in the way they never acknowledge your achievements, never celebrate your victories, never offer encouragement when you need it most. Instead of being your biggest supporter, they become your harshest judge. Instead of lifting you up, they make you feel like nothing you do is ever enough. Over time, their words become the voice inside your head, and soon you begin to criticize yourself the way they do. A partner should be someone who believes in you, who sees the best in you even when you don't see it in yourself. They should make you feel capable, strong, and worthy of love. But when someone constantly makes you feel inadequate, they are not offering love. They are offering control. Because the more they break you down, the more dependent you become on their approval. You start living not for yourself, but for their validation. And that is not love. It is emotional manipulation. The most painful part of this betrayal is that it makes you believe that you deserve it, that their words are justified, that if you could just be better, they would finally love you the way you want to be loved. But the truth is, nothing will ever be enough for someone who only sees flaws. No amount of change, no amount of effort will ever satisfy a person who thrives on making you feel small. You deserve a love that nurtures, not one that wounds. A relationship should be a partnership, a place where you feel safe to be yourself without fear of judgment or ridicule. If someone constantly criticizes you, if they make you feel like you are never enough, then they are not your partner. They are your biggest obstacle. Walk away, because the right person will love you for exactly who you are.